Good afternoon to everybody locked into 98.1 Pearl FM. This is State of the Nation, brought to you courtesy of the St. Martin Christian Party. We want to welcome everybody, whether you're on drive time, whether you're driving home from work, had a long day on the job, or whether you're home somewhere, whether you're on the beach, whether you're in your car, whether you're taking a run, whether you're listening to Pearl on our app, on the Pearl FM app. We want to welcome you to State of the Nation. No, I'm not the host. I'm just introing for the host today. We are back from last election. We had State of the Nation. We have a new host. And I'd like to introduce her to you one time. Her name is Lisa Renee Wilson. And she will be taking charge of this show. And I get to sit back and be a candidate today. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you, Peter. And good afternoon, St. Martin. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Lisa.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here with you on 98.1 Pearl FM. And I'm going to have you introduce yourselves to us, to St. Martin. Let them know who you are, who is here with me. Starting with the candidate to my immediate right.
My name is Claude Alfred Hans Peterson. I'm also known as Chacho. Most people know me as that now, and I am the number 2 candidate on the SMCP slate.
Welcome, Chacho Peterson.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
And the number 1 guy.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa. Good afternoon to all who are listening and watching. I am Wycliffe Smith. I am leader of the St. Martin Christian Party, and I'm running again. In fact, St. Martin Christian Party is running, and it's good to have the top 4 candidates. You may only see 3, and you will be hearing a 4th later on. But it's good to be back on State of the Nation.
Welcome. Is it Minister Smith, Mr. Smith, Pastor Smith? So many ways that we refer to you. Which one are you most? MP Smith?
Well, we'll have to use the latest title that we have. Okay.
Welcome, MP Smith. And
Thank you.
Last but not least.
All right. Well, good afternoon once again to all the listeners. My name is Keith Peter John Gittins, better known as Peter J. Candidate number 4 on the slate for elections coming up on January 9th, and also the deputy leader of the St. Martin Christian Party. Of course, it's a pleasure for me to be here back on the airwaves to inform the people, let them know what's going on with the St. Martin Christian Party. We're going to have a good time. Of course, this election campaign is about keeping it nice and clean and keeping the people informed. So you're definitely going to be getting loads and loads of information right here today and for the next few weeks.
Very good. Welcome, gentlemen. So it sounds like we're in for some of the school children information. MP Peterson?
Well, definitely. Well, first turn it over to the leader of the party to kick it off. This is our first campaign, I guess, kicking off on the radio. So, MP Smith,
Yes.
you have the floor.
Well, it's back to election time, and elections will be on January the 9th, and we've started our campaign. We are busy getting all our stuff together so that within very short the people will be able to see and to hear what the St. Martin Christian Party is all about. We still are campaigning on our same principles, principles that are Christian principles, universal principles, because we think those are what we need at this time in government and in Parliament, and we certainly will ensure that once we get back in government and in Parliament, we'll be able to ensure that these principles are used.
Good. As you said, get back in. Now we're just coming up to near 2 years anniversary since the last election. And a lot of persons are asking that question. Why are we going into another election now?
Well, we're going into another election because Parliament has been dissolved. Normally, you would get a fall of government whereby Parliament loses its confidence in government, and then government then falls apart and the new government can be appointed by Parliament, but there is an article in the Constitution that also enables government to dissolve Parliament, and that is what has happened. And there are several reasons why that took place, and we can go into them, but I would like to maybe just read, and then we can elaborate a bit more on why, as government, and why I also supported new elections. And let me start by saying that this was in the papers. It was published, and it gives a concise explanation as to why government was Parliament was dissolved. It says that SMCP supports the government in its attempt to give the people the opportunity to appoint a proper government by electing representatives to Parliament who are not about grandstanding, self-interest, and greed, but who are able to put country above self and who are objective in their assessment of government. According to the opposition, the government has done nothing right, and that it is the worst government ever in history of St. Martin. Well, I was part of that government, and it hurts when you hear government has done nothing right and that it's the worst government that we have in the history of St. Martin, which is definitely not the case. And since only the government will change and not the parliamentarians, there's absolutely no guarantee that the interference, the sabotaging, the undermining, and the outside manipulation by Parliament will cease to exist. So if we changed the government and not Parliament, we could get a continuation of the same undermining and sabotaging, etc. So that is the reason why Parliament, the people needed to decide again who they would like to have in Parliament, and only government can give that the people that opportunity within the period of 4 years. The tactics used by members of Parliament to delay the decision making on certain laws crucial to the recovery and the development of the country will continue with the same people in Parliament. So lots of things were being delayed, decisions were being delayed, and if the same people remain in Parliament, there would be no change in that respect. So, for example, the delay in passing the CFATF regulations can cause St. Martin to be blacklisted in the financial world. The delay in passing the General Pension Ordinance will continue to cost St. Martin 600,000 guilders a month. The delay in passing the tax reform laws means that St. Martin is not able to revamp its outdated laws, with the result that a lot of companies and persons slip through the cracks and do not pay taxes. Believe it or not, St. Martin at this time is rather dependent on the Dutch financing through the trust fund and liquidity support. In Parliament, the parties, the opposition, have been very opposed to what they term Dutch interference, Dutch control, and Dutch support. So only government could bring about this change and bring the whole thing to the people so that the people can decide really how they want to move forward.
Well, that's a good bit of information, and with that we'll take a break and come back to hear more of our plans, to hear more about what each MP, what each prospective MP will have to say.
Play something for you.
And we're back, St. Martin, live on 98.1 FM with State of the Nation with our SMCP candidates. 1, 2, 3 will be online, and number 4. MP Smith, you just gave us a lot of information about the reasons for us going into this election. And we have candidate number 2, Peterson, who is going to elaborate. Can you explain some of these things to us?
Thank you very much, Lisa. Pastor, thank you for reading that article. That I remember that's the article where as a party we defined our stance on actually the fall of government and the calling of the new election. I think you highlighted some very good points. When that article came out, you were still part of the caretaker government, which you are no longer part of. You are now the member of parliament. What is interesting in many of the things that you mentioned, such as the FATF laws, the airport, those are two things that we can the tax laws, the financial management, the liquidity support. I mean, just to highlight a couple of them, we have already seen that the interim government has pretty much continued the work that you have done in the last government. So that I think is a clear indication of really the grandstanding in some of what was going on in Parliament, where in reality now I think that the Leona cabinet is in many ways being vindicated, that you were definitely not the worst government ever. As I have said in Parliament, I think this is the government that has had to serve at the worst time in the history of St. Martin, which was post-Irma. So I think the people are now realizing that the financing for the airport via the trust fund and the European Investment Bank still remains on the table, and that's the direction that we're going to be going. SMCP as a party, me as the former MP, presented a motion to kind of speed up the process with the bondholder. A meeting that the quorum was broken, but I'm pretty sure as MP you will be following up on that to find out exactly what's going on with that. And then on the part of the FATF, SMCP was also very vocal on the seriousness of it and the fact that we could not risk being blacklisted.
Correct.
I believe the present interim Minister of Justice has traveled to Antigua to try and convince them for some more delay. So I think what is important for the population to realize is that the government that SMCP formed part of was totally serious about the business of the country. It was definitely not about grandstanding, and it was about making the hard decisions and the best decisions possible at the time. Because I think we have been also a coalition and a government that has faced so many challenges post-Irma. So maybe you can give us your take on you know what you're seeing so far now as happening with the airport and all that.
As you said, that the current interim government is continuing where the previous government continued left off.
Yeah.
And that means that the previous government did lay a proper foundation,
Exactly.
did have the procedures in place so that this current interim government can continue. If we were not doing it well, they would have changed
That's
course.
correct. That's correct.
But the mere fact that this interim government is just continuing where the other one left off tells us that we were doing the right thing. And it was difficult because as we had just come out of the hurricane, we had to start processes and procedures up, establish, for instance, the NRPB. So these were things that took much longer than anyone anticipated. But there was progress. We were moving ahead. And where we see the airport now is that the current government is just doing the same thing that we did, working and discussing with the NRPP, working with the lawyers of the bondholders, trying to get them to agree that this interim government would be able to sign, because we knew when we were in government that the bondholders had said since that motion had been passed, they will want to wait until there is really stability. And going into a caretaker government and an interim government, they weren't sure whether the government was able then to sign off on all of these documents.
So-
I think it's very good for us to elaborate a little more on that. Why? Because the motion you speak of, MP Smith, is the motion of no confidence. And in that motion of no confidence that's supported by the new majority, they clearly indicated that the ministers should not sign with any third parties.
Correct.
The bondholder is a third party. And the legal opinions that came down on that, they were conflicting, but there were two legal opinions. One said, based on the lands were slide from the governor, based on those things, that we could go ahead and sign, and one said, no, you can't go ahead and sign.
Yes.
And in the case of that, I believe the bondholders decided, you know what, we need now a declaration from Parliament, and a declaration of Parliament can be done in the form of a motion. And this is a motion that SMCP presented. The motion pretty much authorizing at the time the caretaker ministers to sign. Now the question that remains, this is the big white elephant in the room now, and I know your person and myself have discussed this, is that an interim government, a caretaker government, is a government that pretty much has been fired. The governor asked those ministers to hold the fort until the other ministers are screened. But an interim government is not a permanent government either, hence the word interim. That's the government that's going to hold the fort until elections. And until the new ministers are sworn in after elections. So the insecurity, the instability has not gone away, and definitely, personally, I believe it will not go away in a bondholder's mind. We saw an article recently in the newspaper that stated that the new Minister of Finance will be having discussions, and I even think signing in the next few days. Since then, I've seen a correction to that article, and it's supposed to be weeks.
Yes.
And you know something, MP, that I think the population needs to understand, because the business of government is just not a simple affair. And when dealing, for instance, with the World Bank, and dealing with bondholders, and dealing with, these are not negotiations that go from one day to the next.
No.
They are negotiations that go through multiple layers, and it takes time. It takes time, and you have to go through one hurdle to the next. I think as a party, I know that we had conversations even before getting into to government, that it would not be an easy road to be able to rebuild. And I, for one, definitely understood the structure of the World Bank and the fact that it was going to be used. World Bank has it's a whole country on its own.
Yes.
It's a country that's made up of all the members, which are industrialized countries. So what that means is we can't get away from the bureaucracy, and this is one of the things that I believe was faced by the government we were part of, and that's going to be faced by any government that's going to come along.
Moving forward, yes, that's true.
And even though the money for St. Martin that was donated to St. Martin by the Dutch government, so the World Bank had that only one donor, but their procedures are still...
They have not changed.
Have not changed, and we had to go through all of these processes. So...
including it being new for the World Bank, because this is the first time that the World Bank is being used on one of its own members, which is the Dutch has decided to implement the World Bank, to let them administer the fund in one of their territories. So even for the World Bank, it's a new way of operating in a new system.
Okay, so we've heard about why we're going into elections now, and why SMCP voted to and agreed with that motion in invoking Article 59. Now we have heard from the former MP Peterson and the current MP Smith. Now I would like to hear from the prospective MP Gittins. Why is it that we have candidate number 4 running again in this election?
Well, I think the answer to that is quite simple. SMCP came into the political arena, and one of the things that changed when we got into the political arena was the narrative. We came in and we told the people, hey, we think that there should be another way of governing with integrity, and we gave all of the principles, and all of a sudden, everybody jumped on that bandwagon.
Everybody is transparent.
Everybody was transparent. Everybody was everybody was everything.
Everything. Even Christian. Everybody was Christian.
We had persons jumping up. Yeah, but we go to church, and it really got out of hand. And I think what has happened over the last 2 years since the first election, people have been a little desensitized to the seriousness of transparency and all of these other values that SMCP brings to the table. So without a shadow of a doubt, we need to continue to lead the way, because SMCP has basically been the party showing everybody how it is supposed to be done. And Peterson was in our parliament, and I'm sure he remembers when MP Myers jumped up and said, I can no longer support this coalition, but SMCP has been a very good partner. It's because we continue to bring those principles to the forefront, and we will continue to bring those principles to the forefront. So that's one of my main reasons for being in this election, making sure that the word, we're going to do this for the people, is not something that is empty, but is something that is filled with the right intentions. Let me put it that way.
Very good. And with the right intentions, there was a lot accomplished in the 15-16 months that you were in government and in parliament. Can we talk about some of that? I mean, sometimes it gets blown over in hearing the day-to-day, but at this time I think it would be good to hear exactly what was accomplished.
Well, exactly. There's a list of accomplishments.
At least the top.
For instance, in the Council of Ministers government, there are a couple of laws that were passed during my tenure as minister. The law on subsidizing schools, funding schools, and ensuring that schools become accountable for that subsidy. There was also the law on study financing, whereby now the way study financing and scholarships are granted, that it's done according to legal principles. Formerly it was only based on certain policies. We have busy still with the law on higher education, where it was, when I got in office, it was in the first draft. Since then, it has been reviewed, redrafted again. Stakeholders like the University of St. Martin and the AUC were consulted. Now, we also had the fact that since it was a new law and funding for higher education was very new to St. Martin, because that's never been done, that took much longer. That aspect of the law took much longer to draft. However, both consultants, 'cause we had a consultant on the dealing with the organization, the administration, the content of higher education, and a consultant dealing with the funding of how you fund it. So now they've been able to put those two sets of information together. The law has passed the judicial screening by the legal department of government, and it's in the process where it would have been soon brought to the desk of the minister, and after that to the Council of Ministers, and then it goes to the Council of Advice. So we have moved. It didn't happen as quickly as we would like to, but that law has certainly moved forward to a great extent. Talking about the University of St. Martin, I mean, we have ensured that they received some extra subsidy when they were going through a financial situation again at the end of December 2018. We've had them audited, and they're actually about to be able to access the funds that's on the budget. And we have ensured that we have budgeted an increased amount of subsidy for them in 2019. In 2019, 1.7 million, and in 2020, it's an amount of some 2.3 million, something like that, has been budgeted. So we have kept the university, in to make sure that it will be able to carry out the task that it's doing. So there are quite a number of things we have been able to do. And what we're going to do, we're drawing up a listing of all the accomplishments of SMCP, actually, in government. So since we were in Parliament, we were in government, and we also had a representative in the cabinet of plenipotentiary in the Netherlands. So we're going to be able to show to the people what we have done in those 3 areas of government.
Okay, that's good. And we're going to get to Mr. Michael Summersall in a few minutes after our next break. But just before we go to break, Peter J., you were there as a public servant coming from the private sector. How was that experience for you, serving side by side with Minister Smith?
Well, it was an awesome experience. I can tell you that serving by the leader has been nothing but wonderful for me. Being able to walk in his footsteps, being able to tap into his brain, understand the reasons and the hows and the don'ts and the do's has been very enlightening, very educating for me as a matter of fact. I think I've grown a lot in the last year and few months just being by his side. Coming from the private sector, it was like night and day for me, getting into the civil service and how things are done. Things are done a lot quicker in the private sector. There's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape, for instance, in the ministries. One of the things that I did enjoy and I did notice, and I'm sure people will be speaking about this, is the calm that came to the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports. That's where we were. And the way things were done. Minister Smith at the time didn't go in saying, this is what I wanted. He sat, he spoke with the SG, he spoke with the different MT management members, got everybody on board, and everybody was basically singing the same tune and in harmony. It kind of hurt today when I watched the press briefing, for instance, to see that now, we've gone from having a stable minister, a government that has come in with a new 9 that has basically said, this government has done nothing wrong. They've come in and they're basically saying every single day we're doing exactly what Minister Smith and the Leona cabinet did. We're going to do the same thing. I heard today there's not going to be a Minister of Education. You come in, you put in the cabinet, you put 7 people in the cabinet, and nothing new is happening. And I really want people out there to understand this, and I want them to be able to make an informed decision, when voting. As we answer these questions, make sure that you ask those other people out there the same questions as well.
Right.
Why don't I have a Minister of Education now? Isn't education important? Didn't you come from education? Ask these questions and get the answers from them as well.
And with that, we'll go to our break. Very important questions for the public to answer. And we'll be right back. Stay tuned to 98.1 Pearl FM. Welcome back to State of the Nation on Pearl FM 98.1, and we're here live with the SMCP candidates, Mr. Smith, Mr. Peterson, Mr. Gittins, and now online we have Mr. Somersall. Welcome, Mr. Somersall.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, now we're talking about the success.
Listeners, my colleagues back there in the studio.
Thank you, and it's good to have you with us. Listeners, now we're asking Mr. Somersall, we've been talking about the successes of the SMCP in the last administration, and you were active in the ministry, in the cabinet of the Minister Plenipotentiary in The Hague. Can you tell us more about that, your function there and what you're able to accomplish?
Okay. Well, my role here at the cabinet was the deputy minister plenipotentiary, and we came with a mandate to, revamp the cabinet, as they say. It was a critical role, definitely now with the rebuilding of St. Martin and building back up our relationship with the Netherlands here, particularly with the trust fund money that is on the table. Things that we were able to do while we're here is we have 3 goals at the cabinet. That is our key task. And the first goal is to represent St. Martin in the Kingdom Council of Ministers meetings. The second goal we have is to represent the people of St. Martin living here in the Netherlands. And the third goal we have is to promote St. Martin as a destination, you could say for tourism, but also as a business opportunity for other businesses. So those are the 3 roles that we play here. We've been able to create awareness for the cabinet once more in the Netherlands by networking with the ministries here, with Parliament, with various ambassadors from various countries. And we has also been able to engage with our students and young professionals here. We introduced at the Cabinet After 5, where we host events and we highlight our young professionals and students where they can talk about their field of work and expertise, and we could share ideas with each other based on the challenges we have back home. We've been busy working on a platform, 721, where we want to create a network to get the diaspora that is all spread over the Netherlands of our young professionals and students. And we can create a platform where we can create that dialogue and know who they are, where they are, what they're doing, what is their expertise. And by doing that, when we think of looking for skillful workers, employees to fill critical roles back in St. Martin, we can tap into that network and say, hey, we know Mr. James from St. Martin who have studied this, and he will be a good candidate for that job. And that was one of the key things that we've been working on lately, is to get that platform up and running. I must say we've done quite a lot, and I'm very happy to be serving here, and I must give props to the team that we have at the cabinet, because they are the backbone of the cabinet. Ministers come and go, but they are the core. And I must say, not sitting there now with them in the office, I can really say that St. Martin is still in good hands, because we have a dedicated team still at the cabinet to handle St. Martin's business.
That's good.
So that, in a nutshell, those are some of the things that we accomplished.
Okay, thank you very much. And you're still in The Hague at this time?
Yes, I'm still here. I will be flying down in January. I won't be coming down to campaign because for me, the work still continues. Not in the cabinet, but outside of the cabinet. I mean, people are still reaching out who wants to make quite an impact and a difference in St. Martin. So they're still reaching out to me, and we're still in dialogue, looking at different solutions for the issues that we have back home. And I think that's important. So I really like to finish what I've started, and to see how I can still contribute, although I'm not part of the government anymore.
And so this is what SMCP stands for, as you're speaking of serving for change, because most persons from what I've seen, they have they demitted office and they'd have been back on the plane. Someone else's, it's their job. So it's commendable that you're still there and doing the work of the people, even though not in government, but still for the people.
Definitely. You know, one of the reasons why I decided to run and be part of this whole thing is because I believe that everyone deserves equal chances in life. And I know it is the government's responsibility to create the opportunities where that can happen. And like Mr. Giddens, I came up from the private sector, and we know how fast we can make decisions to make things happen. And in my field, I created an impact in my field as a food safety consultant. But I wanted to create a bigger impact. And one way to do that on a larger scale is to be part of government. And to be in parliament, you can really create an impact in all ministries. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running.
Okay, thank you very much. And just any final words before you, I know you're tuned in online on pearlfm.sx, but before you go, anything else that you'd want to say to St. Martin, to the listening audience?
I would like to know, I just want to say, you know, we are a resilient people, and I definitely believe that we will press forward and we will make the right decisions. I just want to tell people, don't give up hope. You have good people who have really good intentions for St. Martin, and we're here for the long haul. Like I said, I've decided now to do this. This is a chapter in my life. You know, some people want politics as a career. I believe I made a conscious decision now to focus on working for the country. And yeah, like I said, we're here for the long haul, and we're going to do it with integrity, and it's supposed to be done. And we're going to put people first, because I think with the decisions that we have to make, we have to put people first. And once we put people first, we will make the right decisions.
Thank you. Candidate number 3 on the SMCP slate for the January 9th, 2020 elections. We'll see you when you return, and keep up the good job.
Thank you. You can follow me online. My platform will be online. I'll be campaigning online, so people can follow and hear everything I have to say.
Campaign online. Thank you. Now, that's another interesting
You're
thing.
welcome.
We've been seeing campaign billboards going up. And how is SMCP approaching? Candidate number 4. How are we doing this?
Oh, well, I remember last election, Claude, in his campaign, was one of the advocates for no billboards. At this particular time, we are still navigating those waters. For our chances are we going to be doing a lot more digital, a lot more online advertising, but people will see it in the next few weeks.
Okay, so we're just about out of time. I'm going to give the candidates the time to just give your wrap up and your.
Well,
final
I'm
word.
going to leave the last word for MP Smith,
you-
so I'm
you
going to
can-
go now.
yes.
I just want to say thank you for Michael for calling in. I believe Michael is a clear example of what it is to commit to service. He made a conscious decision to get involved from the private sector. I also came from the private sector, so I also made that conscious decision to do so. I think why am I running? I'll be very honest with you. I have no desire to be in my third election since 2016, something that would have taken me 12 years to accomplish. Now I will be doing it in 3 years. That being said, SMCP remains, and I definitely remain committed to continue serving the people. I think it should be very clear to the people by now, even with the testimonies of our coalition partners, that we are the party that not only campaigned about stability, about integrity, about transparency, honesty, but we lived it. We kept our word. I promised that I would give back the seat. I have done so. MP Smith has made many promises that he has lived up to. The party is a party that has crystallized politics in St. Martin, and we have now, even with our limited funding and our limited amount of candidates, we have basically managed to become the trendsetters. So while we are a one-seat party, it seems as if we are the party to emulate. But we have not only said it with words. MP Smith, the leader of our party, has also indicated it earlier, where for us, it was not about making promises. I didn't make any promises. We didn't make any promises as a party, but we went in. Not only did we continue the good things that we met, but as a coalition partner in a governing coalition, we actually proved what it is to be a good coalition partner. And that is something that I believe none of the parties have ever been able to do, and we will continue to do so. Stability for us still remains the order of the day. Integrity, as Peter mentioned earlier, remains the integrity of the day. I am one that believes that, recently we've seen now the trend of everybody bringing laws. So there's laws coming from candidates, from MPs, laws are coming from all over the place. SMCP has also worked on a law, and we will be discussing that as we go along in the campaign. But what I want to mention about that is that, in my humble opinion, laws are not the solutions only in St. Martin. We need to, yes, update our laws, amend many of our laws, but what we need is enforcement of our laws. It makes no sense working on a law, voting it, and then it's not enforced. Enforcement of laws many times takes money, which is why the former government was working on proper financial management. So like I said, for me, today, it's not only about profiling yourself about how many laws you brought in Parliament, but also the integrity that you can bring to Parliament.
Right.
And that for me remains, that will definitely be my continued campaign cry, where I always say the integrity of the messenger is more important than the content of the message. Without integrity, that message has zero value.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
And before.
Okay, well, I'll just chime in very quickly before the leader wraps it up.
Yes.
Again, to the people out there, we want to thank you for tuning into State of the Nation. We're going to be on every week, every Wednesday at 5 p.m. right here on Pearl FM. So I invite you to join us every week from now, including the week of election, straight up, as we continue to bring you the facts, the real information, the truth, the transparency that a lot of these other parties are going to be lacking. And that's one of the things I just want to touch before we get off the air. Over the next few weeks, I know the public is going to be flooded with information. Like Claude said, laws going to be flying left and right. Everybody's going to have an opinion, and I want the public to be able to sift through and realize what is truth and what is just the spin, the flip-flopping. A lot of that is going to be happening. So as we give you the information and we hold ourselves accountable, we ask that you do the same so that you can make an informed decision when you go into that booth and vote. Ask the same questions of the other parties as well. Find out from them exactly, hey, I heard this on State of the Nation. Where do you guys stand? And make that decision. And you'll start to realize that, as Claude said, SMCP has been the stable factor through all of this, and will continue to be just that and nothing more. We're here to serve for a change. We have brought that change. Like Claude said, we are the party that everybody tends to emulate, and we are very happy that at least we can have brought that to the table. This election, though, I'm urging the people of St. Martin, we want to bring more to the table, and the only way for us to bring more to the table is for the people of St. Martin to give us more. So we want to move from that one seat, and we want to move up to 2, to the 3, to whatever the people of St. Martin decide. You know what? St. Martin Christian Party is the stable party, is the party that everybody else has been following, and we believe that they can help usher in a new way of governing St. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Gittins. And to the number one candidate, the leader of the party, MP Smith.
Thank you very much, Lisa. As we are nearing the end of today's program, I just want to say it's been a pleasure to start back this program. We didn't get to keep up with it because of our busy schedules. But I want to also say thanks to the 13 candidates who believed in SMCP and who are with us on the slate, who support and agree with the principles and the way the party is going. And we want to say thanks also to the people of St. Martin for giving us the confidence, and we're looking forward to their support, to your vote in this upcoming election. We had expected that we could be there for 4 years and carry out a program. Of course, we were not able to do so, but even in the short time that we have been in government and in Parliament, we have made a difference. There are many things that we have been able to bring about. And even some of the things may not be tangible, but just being in government, just ensuring that these principles that former MP Peterson spoke about, and also candidate Giddison spoke about, these principles, we were able to bring them to the table and to bring about change. And also, you know, we are looking for a different type of politician in government. Well, I always believe that once one gets in government, and especially in Parliament, the focus should shift. It shouldn't be politics, but it should be people. We should be there to see what we can do for the people, and that is really what I call what is the definition of a statesman? That a statesman puts the nation first and puts self aside, but a politician puts self first and the nation after. And so I said in Parliament during my first speech when there on Tuesday that we have 112 politicians who are vying for 15 seats, and I hope that out of those 112 politicians, we will get 15 statesmen who will care about the people and who will look after the people's business and put the politics aside. Because I think what has happened with us, we have not been able to put politics aside, and so this is what we get. Constantly people wanting to ensure that their self is satisfied, and so we go out of bounds, and this is one of the reasons why we're having elections now. And I want to say, as candidate number 2 said, Peterson, that you know there are lots of laws, and Peter said it too, and I think SMCP can be credited for that, because when we came on the scene, we told the people that a parliamentary election was not about governing and not about promises and what a minister can do, but what one is to do in Parliament, which is the first job is to legislate. And now we're seeing all kinds of laws. Everybody's coming with a law, which is good, but we also have to remember that laws take a long time to be processed and eventually to be approved. So coming to say that you're coming with a law doesn't mean that once you get in Parliament that law automatically is going to be approved. It's going to be a long process, and we need to be aware of that too. So I want to say to the people of St. Martin, consider SMCP. Give SMCP an opportunity to govern. Our principle is stability, and we have kept to that, and this is what you will be seeing from us: stable, integer, honest government for the people of St. Martin.
Thank you, MP Smith. And with that, we've come to the end of the first episode of State of the Nation, live on Pearl FM Radio 98.1 FM. We'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in, listeners, those who are tuning in via Facebook and via our website. Until next Wednesday at 5 p.m.